was not born enlightened. I am not a monk. I am not a guru. I grew up in Queens, New York, in a red brick 6-story apartment building, right under, exactly in the flight path of JFK Airport and LaGuardia Airport, both over my head, planes flying overhead nonstop. My building was also right over the train yards, so there was a lot of noise and rumbling throughout my childhood. And my mom died when I was pretty young, and so that was pretty much the first big loss of my life. It rocked my world, an extreme trauma, but that healing process also gave me strength and courage and resilience. And my mother was strong, courageous, and resilient, even in her most fragile state, right up to her last breath. And I'd like to think that she passed her best traits on to me. I'd like to hope that. And so when I was in college, I took an experimental Asian studies class. We met every Wednesday for 90 minutes. It was a Zen meditation, very strict, and it came with a lot of rules. And as you probably know, I'm really into dogs, but not dogma. That's Peaches the Buddha princess, who just celebrated her 18th birthday on the 23rd. So I don't dig like the rules and the dogma. You must, or here's the way. It's just not the way that I grew up or the way I think. So I dropped that class and I left that practice. It was a little too rigid for me. And I spent many, many years exploring other forms of meditation, some for weeks, some for years, candle gazing, mantra, tantra, mindfulness, transcendental meditation, breathing techniques, affirmations, kundalini practices, Buddhist practices, even chocolate tasting meditation. Still one of my favorites to this day. But then I got deeper and deeper into the corporate world. And with each step in, I got further away from my practice. I let it slip. I skipped meditations. I forgot to meditate. And then I began rationalizing my excuses for why I was no longer meditating. And at a certain point, I realized I had stopped meditating. My practice was gone. And I also realized that balance in my life was gone. I was overwhelmed. I was burnt out. I was disconnected. I felt very, very alone in life. I had no community. My relationships were frayed at best. I was only sleeping a few hours a night. My blood pressure was high. I know. Can you believe what a loser? I felt lost in so many ways. And I was working on the 82nd floor of Tower 2 of the World Trade Center at the time. In June of that year, I changed jobs and I took a job 17 blocks north of that. And a few months later, in September, on 9/11, the World Trade Center was attacked. That tower collapsed, and everyone who worked on the 82nd floor died. And I had left there 3 months earlier. So I was actually on the roof of my new building about 17 blocks north, watching Tower 2 burn and then collapse, knowing everyone that I once worked with there was dead. So I don't know, fate, karma, destiny. That visual is etched into me forever. Obviously, deep grief and profound survivor's remorse, but also this unexplainable gratitude that I was spared. And I have used that gratitude to heal my grief and find deeper purpose in my life every single day. And that has given me a sacred mission for my remaining years on this planet to help other people heal, find peace, and discover deeper meaning in their life. I know, that's like a mic drop moment, but it's my whole architecture. So in the wake of 9/11, I set out on this spiritual journey to India in search of answers, in search of the guru, meditating every single day, practicing yoga, bathing in the holy waters, reading the ancient scriptures. I must have read the Bhagavad Gita 500 times over that period of time. I visited all the temples. It was my sort of like my eat, pray, love journey without the eating and the love, just a lot of prayer. And at a certain point in my quest to find myself, I realized the guru rests inside. The answer to every single question we could ever ask rests inside. We just have to quiet down all the noise in our head. And if we can progressively quiet those fluctuations in our mind, we can hear the whispers of our heart, the whispers of God. And once I truly experienced that, clarity unfolded. And joy, which for me had been gone for many, many years, actually awakened. And so I committed to a daily meditation practice. That weight on my chest that had been so heavy and there for so long was lifted. I began to sleep more peacefully at night. My relationships got better. The estranged, toxic relationship that I had with my dad for decades turned into this dear and loving relationship. But even more profound was that renewed loving relationship that I began with myself. And even though I was meditating every single day, a friend of mine told me, my friend Rookie, she said, if you want to learn something, learn to teach it. And I was like, I'm from Queens. I don't care about anybody else's meditation. So I resisted that calling and I put it off. And then I put it off even longer. And I made up so many different excuses. And I did a deep self-examination. So let me just speak about this concept for a moment, because I don't think I was alone in my hesitation. Yes, I really didn't have any interest in sharing it with anybody else. But perhaps you've been hesitating as well. So many people who ultimately get on the teacher's path, they're like, yeah, I thought about it for a couple of years, and this seemed like the right time. But there's something more profound about that. This is the natural step in every hero's journey. Resisting the call. Joseph Campbell wrote about this. It's actually a thing. The hero first gets the calling and naturally first resists it. I think it's a part of a worthiness thing. Who am I to take this time? Who am I to spend this money? Who am I to invest in myself? Who am I to embark on the teacher's path without knowing how it's going to end up, right? And so one day when I was reading the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 48, Yogastaha kuru karmani, establish yourself in the present moment and then perform action. I had no sooner put that book down when I stumbled into another powerful transformational saying that sealed the deal for me. And it was this empowering quote by Hillel the Elder. If I'm not for myself, who is for me? If I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? And I was like, yes, sir. I'm in. Just tell me where to go. And so I began the first of many yoga and meditation teacher trainings, not thinking I would ever teach. I did it so I could hold myself accountable. I figured if I'm a teacher, I'll show up every day. But once I got certified, I felt even a deeper calling, and that was to share these gifts with others. And I know you also have gifts to share, and you wouldn't have been drawn to the master class if you didn't have some urging to follow that calling. So I'm an eternal student and teacher and translator of everything, of menus, of ancient wisdom, but I love to translate some of those ancient teachings into real world practical application. That's my jam. And it would be an honor to share that with you. I've written a few books. I've recorded a bunch of meditation albums. I've recorded over 1,800 meditations. I just recorded another one this week called Total Healing. I'm certified in 2 schools of yoga, I think 5 schools of meditation, TM, PSM, MBSR, that's mindfulness-based stress reduction, mindfulness training, search inside yourself certification, trauma-informed mindfulness training, brain longevity and therapy training. But honestly, my true training came from a great teacher and mentor, Dr. David Simon, who taught me to embrace all the teachings and flow with the ones that really speak to you. And that's what I have done in my life, and that's what I would always encourage you to do as well. You know, what's that line by Pema Chodron? The truth you believe and cling to makes you unavailable to hear anything new. So if we can embrace it all and just let the stuff that speaks to you come in, the other stuff, you're not going to talk about it or think about it anyway. So that's kind of my backstory. The joy in my life is to teach people how to become rock star meditators and to train them in all these powerful techniques and practices.